Next section, a book launch, The Whispering Chinar by Ali Rohila, and in conversation with Shazia Hasan. Over to you, Shazia.
Hello. This is a book about KPK, right? So something most of us in Karachi may not be very familiar about. We don't know KPK that well because we are down here, they're up there. So it's in the north. And we have the author who knows a lot about his subject. And I'm glad that he's written about it. And the book has previously, it's been published in India first, and now it's published in Pakistan through Liberty Books. And it's a very, very engaging story, and I should say stories. So there are several, there are the short stories which are in a way interconnected. And so let's just jump into it right away, sir.
Please,
okay.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah, so sir, when I introduced him, he writes by the name of Ali Rohila, but this is his pen name, and his real name is Muhammad Ali Khan Saab, and Khan Saab is a banker by profession, which is amazing because it must take all of his time. And he's written a book. It's quite a nice book, and it's very well written. He's worked very hard on his characters, and through the characters, the story, it unveils through the characters. And I'm just wondering, being a banker, where did you find the time to write a book? And this is, mind you, his second book. So his first book was a collection of essays, and this is his second book. So where did you find the time to write this book?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, to become an author, first of all, you have to do your engineering, you do your business studies, and then you become an author. So first of all, let's make that clear. And you do a lot of mathematics, like I've done differentiation, integration, you do all that, and then you become an author. Time, you have to find out time. You don't have time, actually. Nobody has time on their hands, but you have to take out time from the activities like watching movies or listening to music or going out with friends. You have to cut down on that to find the time,
Yes, you have to make time for something you feel passionately about.
That is right.
And he is also, which I have to mention, is the son of a very famous writer, Parto Rohila Saab. So it's in his blood. So that is also something which came naturally to you, writing, right?
That is right, because you see, what I want to tell the audience is that, see, I am not a student of literature. I never read English literature in my entire life. But, not as a subject. But what happened was that I've done about 25 to 30 years of reading, and that reading has basically, it was philosophy, Eastern philosophy, Western philosophy. You read about history, you read literature, English literature, Russian literature, and then you reach a certain stage where you are in a position to write something about what you want to write about,
What you want to write about.
What you want to write
so
about.
There are so many characters in this book. There's so many different settings these characters are in. So it must be very difficult to research everything. So you have mentioned the corporate world, but before that, there is the village, the Charbagh village, and you also, you talked about the Pashtun lifestyle and growing up there, and all kinds of mindsets which also they're there, existing together, but they also clash. So it must take a lot of research for you to work on each character.
You see, first of all, let me tell you, Pashtuns, as Ghani Khan once says, Pashtuns are a complicated simplicity. First of all, you have to understand that. Very complicated people, but yet very simple at the same time. The other thing is that I didn't have to do a lot of research because this was part of my growing up, so I saw those characters, and what does an author do? An author exaggerates and comes up with a certain story, So a small instance, exaggerate it, and there is your... But yes, true. The thing is that you have to have it in your blood. So no, it doesn't mean that you need to take creative writing courses or anything, nothing of the sort, no.
Yeah.
Either you have it in you or you don't have it in you.
Yeah, but so many characters. Some of them you must have some. They must have some resemblance to someone you have met in real life.
True, true. Yes, that
You
is very
base
true.
them on someone.
Yes, yes, of course. Because again, you see, you just need to you have come across those people, and you just fine tune a little, and then you just put them in those places.
Yeah, and you make them say whatever you want them to say.
It's always like that, because what is a writer doing basically? He's actually putting across his own point of view through these different characters. That's what the author is doing.
And maybe someone you didn't like in real life, you just deal with them in the book.
You see, you have to be very careful if you're on the wrong side of the writer. You've got to be very, very careful. Because if you're on the wrong side of the writer, he's going to curse you in your book, which means cursing him for eternity. You'll be cursed till eternity because you've written, and there's one or two characters that I have actually written from the corporate world.
आ गए ना,
Yes.
पठान बन गए ना, बदला ले लिया ना, बंदूक चलाए बगैर मार डाला. Okay, so it is tells you a lot about the Pakhtun culture. So I have introduced him. I'll tell you something about myself. I'm half Pakhtun, and I have some idea without going there and living there, so I could relate to the book. So things I've heard from my grandmother, and she used to tell my mamu ke dekho wahan shaadi hai Bannu mein, so I'll go attend the wedding. You don't do that because they will settle their differences. जब वो हवाई फायर करते हैं तो एक पिस्तौल तुम्हारे पे भी एम होगी और तुम्हें मार देंगे. तो फिर ये इस तरह से do you feel कि guns वगैरह जो हैं they're also part of the Pakhtun culture?
No. We belong to the part. We are from the North KPK, and they are very settled, very amiable people.
Okay, but your characters have guns and everything, and
Guns, obviously, the interest in guns, that starts from a very young age.
Okay.
From very young, and that's part of every family. Every family carries guns, But
Yeah.
again, that's not to hurt anyone,
Yeah,
but just for the shikars and all that.
shikars, we call a gun in Pashto tepak.
Topak, tipak.
Tepak. Okay, we have
That's
like different
There's a different accent. Yeah,
accents. Yeah, so my nani used
That is
to
tepak.
think that everyone should have a tepak. Yeah, तो वो असली पठान का बच्चा होता है, और सारी लड़कियां शेरनी होती हैं और सब शेरनियों को काम करना चाहिए, they should go conquer the world. तो आपकी बुक में भी ऐसी शेरनियां हैं.
Gee, because see, what you see is your feminine characters is kitab mein hai, you'll find them, they're very strong characters.
Yes.
They're not those oppressed ones that you have, that women coming up from KPK and they're oppressed. No. They're very, very strong characters, all
They're
of them.
very
And
strong.
they're very unapologetic characters, you see. You'll come
Unapologetic
across.
characters.
Yes.
One is, I was reading about it, and first thing I confronted him about, there's a character named Shazia in the book. And Shazia can easily learn how to shoot, right? And Shazia would, unapologetically smoke. And
Yeah, but you see, Shazia, the character that you talked about, she's a very honorable lady,
yeah.
You see, as the story progresses, you find out that she's a very honorable soul, whatever background that she has. And similarly, all the characters all the women characters, they're all very honorable people,
Yes, and there are all kinds of characters in the book. So there is Khan Saab, who has 3 sons and 6 daughters. And his 3 sons, 2 of them, they have their eye on all the property, all the lands. The youngest is not even expecting much. And then there's romance, there's heartbreak, right? All these things are there in the book. Then there is also the Maulanas, the Mullahs, the Maulvis.
Yes.
They have their own competition. They have these mosques and कौन किस मस्जिद का इमाम है, कौन क्या है. Sir, आपने बहुत सारे characters book में डाले, and each character you have worked very hard on, right? So आपने अपने जो भी पता नहीं कौन सा मौलाना आपको टकरा गया था जो आपने क्या क्या कर दिया. तो हाँ सर, तो ये सारे
Actually, Shazia, there are some very explosive themes in there.
Yes.
Things that I could only write in English, because if whenever this thing gets translated into Urdu, and I might have to do a lot of explaining, because there are 3 major strands in this book. It's patriarchy, feudalism, and religion. Religion comes across as very, very strong out here, Ji. Because I have read a little bit about religion, obviously, because since I've never been to a madrasa, but of course I've read about it. So I have discussed those issues, and I've discussed them in a lot of detail in here.
Yes.
And then I've come to certain conclusions from those,
Yes.
which could have
where-
repercussions,
where
which could
is-
have serious repercussions, but that's what it is.
Repercussions, there's mention of blasphemy.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I've
while
discussed that.
writing about all these Maulvis, all these imams, were you afraid that someone could also point a finger at you? Now the book is available in Pakistan, Allah khair kare. Sir,
Not really. I think, look at my white hair. I've lived enough. Ji. So if something has to happen at this stage, let it happen, whatever that is.
सर आपने किसी मौलाना के वाइट हेयर ने कहीं ख्याल नहीं किया और लिख दिया उनके पोल खोल दिए सर आपने
अब मुझे ये देखें ना, you see the society that we are living in. आप ये देखें कि when I was young and we used to see some very honorable people in the society, but they were not very religious. Now we have a lot of religious people, but there is no spirit, there's no spirit of religion.
Oh.
There's just form which is there. So that's something which really affects me and which has affected me. And I've seen this transformation in front of my eyes, So this is something one really feels bad about, and that's what I've written.
Okay.
And somebody has to stand up and tell the society this is wrong what you're doing. This is not the right thing to do. Somebody has to do it.
First those mullahs need to learn how to read English books. Okay, so what about the memory part of this?
Memory, actually one thing about memory, Ji. I used to complain about memory. Lot of complaining that I don't have a good memory, I don't have a good memory. And then I realized, for an author, it is so important to have a bad memory, It is so important to have a bad memory. It is such a gift from God when an author having a bad memory. Authors would have a bad memory. Because if you keep remembering what you've written, you cannot write anymore, So this is the first gift that I realized, having a bad memory is such a gift from nature, And I thank God for that,
Okay, and coming to memory, since you are saying you have a bad memory, all these ideas which keep coming into a creative mind, so you have to keep, you have
Obviously.
to note those down as well, otherwise they'll
Yes,
escape your mind.
No, all serious writers, if they are serious about writing, you need to have a notebook and need to have a pen all the time, because anything, like for example, we're sitting here, anything that you say, it might just strike me, I might just note it down.
Yeah.
It might come up as a dialogue in some character or something, For example, we're sitting in this hall and there's something that attracts my eye, and maybe I would just note it down. And believe me, that's how it has happened,
Yeah.
So sitting in a coffee shop, it's waste of time on the face of it. It's a total waste of time. And that's what the best ideas that have come to me have been when I've just been sitting there, doing nothing, sipping coffee, and things come and just note them down. And later they have come up in my book.
Okay, so you start from that idea, I can write about this, then you get to the researching. And how much research did you have to do, because you've grown around this lifestyle?
Yeah.
And you know the places. So the research,
Research part is basically, as I said earlier also, it comes naturally because you're writing about something that you know about, And one should always write about something that you know about.
yes.
And you've grown up there, and you just need to kind of fine-tune a few things. But
Yeah.
it's not that research as in research, that an
Okay, so
student would do. It's not something
excellent.
like that.
Okay, so you are a busy person, so I was just wondering, you did make time for it. You took time off
See,
from work.
you have to take time out. Number two, what happened was that COVID, that came as a gift, another gift from God, So even I contracted COVID. I was out for a good month.
Oh, God.
But we got a lot of time from the office, so that's when I finalized the entire thing,
Okay, but the
During
idea was
COVID,
there in your head.
So it was there, so I just needed to kind of finalize the entire thing.
Okay,
So I
but
found the time during
it
COVID.
takes a lot of hard work still.
Yes.
Okay, and so the first book was a collection of essays. Now this is a collection of stories,
That is
which are all interconnected. You can read it like a novel. And with me, I kept turning page after page, because I wanted to know about new people, new characters, which are introduced with each story. And you tell everything about them. Their entire life is in those words. So you've done a lot of tight writing, because it's not a very fat book.
See, my objective was that it has to be fast-paced.
Yes, it's fast-paced.
It has to be. Number two, the language has to be such that you must have realized that the language is not loose,
Yeah, it's tight, right? That's what I'm
It's
saying.
very
precise.
very precise. Very,
Yes.
very precise. Because I don't want, because I wanted it to be a piece of literature, It had to be literature. And so you'll find descriptions, you'll find some metaphors. For example, the tree, the whispering Chinar, the tree itself, it's a metaphor in itself. What is it a metaphor? It's a metaphor, branches depicting the family, the leaves and all that, they're providing the shade and everything to the family. And
Yes.
so all these are all metaphors.
And
you know.
as the leaves in the wind, when they are moving, it's
Yes.
like the tree is whispering.
Whispering to you,
And it's
yes.
telling you whatever it has witnessed.
That
And
is right.
it is in a big place, it's a Haveli, right?
Haveli, that is right.
Okay, and there is the Khan Sahib Haveli, and the tree is there, and it was planted by a saint.
Yes.
And it's like a blessing over there. And it's witnessing everything that happens in that place. And only the tree is witness, it knows everything. And most probably, I think it is the narrator. The
Yes,
whispering
sir.
Chinar is whispering and telling you the story about whatever it has seen.
That is right. That is right.
That is right. Okay. So, sir, would you be interested in maybe you could do a reading? Or?
I'll just, a couple of them. There's one which is about, you know, the way that our language has changed over the past 40. Language changed, for example, my father, he could speak and write Persian very well. He was a Persian scholar. I do not know Persian. He used to write in Urdu, I write in English. My children now, mashallah, they can't even read proper Urdu, you know, nothing that I'm proud of, but they can't. So that's how we are losing the language, and this is about that particular thing, this passage. For the new generation, English was the language that offered possibilities of pleasure. The copious volumes on love in the local languages did not have the vocabulary of love intertwined with pleasure. They only defined the parameters of forbidden love. Love was duly admired in folklore, but only when it ended up in physical and emotional suffering. The lovers were expected to suffer instead of having a satiated physical relationship, albeit a legitimate one. Society considered puritanical love to be beyond the physical realm. Such norms created a need for new vocabulary to gratify the needs of modern minds, and it was only through the medium of English that adolescents could make more meaningful demands of each other. So this is regarding that English language that we talked about.
Yes.
This is about that.
Would you like to read another passage? This was really...
Yeah, there's one more. This is about the corporate world, you know. This is because since I'm part of the corporate world for the
He is
past
part of
32
it.
years. In the corporate world, men and women were meant to be managed in large cells called offices. It was here that their dark sides were chiseled and nurtured. Unfortunately for Imran, he had managed only the cells in spreadsheets. He did not realize that to survive and progress in the corporate world, one had to wear a thick layer of callousness within which the corporate system artfully sowed seeds of greed, commonly called progress. He did not realize that it was greed that animated the earth in general and corporates in particular. After all, how could progress be achieved without greed? How could corporates bring out the best in their workers without invoking envy? Without wrath, how could the sloth be handled? And with progress came confidence, called pride. What good had humility offered to mankind except meekness? Though Imran knew the virtues of evil, his malevolent barometer required a major shake-up. Fully aware that he had only a single lifetime, he still experimented with patience, abstinence, morality, honor, and decency. That's what I wanted to do.
That's very, very nice. Really. Really. Like, आपको कभी ये नहीं लगा कि मेरे अब्बू जिस ज़बान में लिखते थे?
Actually, I started writing in Urdu, to tell you the truth, you know. I started writing Urdu, and then I shifted, you know. Why did I shift? I thought probably I'll have access to a larger audience. This is what I thought. Maybe I'm totally wrong about it. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Okay. But this was my thinking. And then I shifted, actually. So, but you see, it was a lot of hard work, you know, because, I mean, as I said, about 20, 25 years of reading, and I talked about the different subjects, and then I had something to say, and that's when I wrote, you know.
Okay, so do you have an idea? Do you think about another book now? Are you
Yes,
thinking
actually
about
I've
that?
started. Yes, actually
You have started?
I've started.
Is
actually.
that another collection of stories, or would
No,
it
this
be
is,
a
no,
novel?
this is a novel. I've written about 3,500 words. I've just started,
wow.
you know. So, but that's a novel set about 2,000 years back. You know.
Oh, it's a historic fiction.
It's a historical fiction, yes, yes.
Historical fiction set up like in this region?
Yes, it is in the Gandhara civilization. It's about Gandhara civilization, set 2,000 years back. That's when Gandhara civilization was at its epic, at its height, and that's so. And lots again, as you'll find lots of discussions in this book, So you'll find philosophical discussion, religious philosophical discussions, social discussions. As I said, that you have feudalism, patriarchy, and religion. 3 themes that come up. You'll find different types of discussions. And to have these discussions, obviously, you need to have a nodding acquaintance with all these subjects that I talked about. Otherwise, you can't write.
Okay, sir. उस वक्त तो कोविड आ गया, so you completed your book. अब आप ये novel कैसे complete करने वाले हैं, sir?
अब अल्लाह खैर करे कोई और बीमारी ना आ जाए जी.
नहीं सर, वैसे काफी कुछ जंग वंग की भी बात सुनने को आती है, सर. अब जंग वंग हो गई तो फिर ये भी हो सकता है कि आप किताब लिख रहे हो या आप बंदूक पकड़ लेंगे उसको.
You never know. It could be either, or it could be both actually.
Okay.
It could be both.
Okay, so should we open for questions? Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Gee. Is there a microphone here?
Hi, my name is Kiran. I really enjoyed the book, but a character that stood out to me was Ashfaq Khan. So can you please elaborate on that character?
Yes, he is the wisdom, you see. He's the conscience of the society. And I wanted to, so that conscience of the society is what I want people to know, that, okay, this is the spirit actually. So I had to bring in this character to tell the people that this is right and this is wrong. This is how it should be. Because every time that you write something, the author wants things to be in a certain way, that this is how it should be. And that's what Ashfaq Khan does. And you must have seen these 2 or 3 different stories that he's in, that's what he does, for the society. So he's the sage, he's the wisdom, he's the conscience of the society. That is it.
Anyone else? Ji?
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Iman, and I haven't read the book, but I would like to know which character was the hardest to write.
I think Ashfaq Khan was a difficult character. Ashfaq Khan was, because when you're talking about the conscience of the society, you're talking about that, so you have to balance so many different things, This was a difficult character, yes. And then, of course, the way that you want to portray him. How do you want to portray him? Is it a religious character that is the conscience of the society? Or is it the irreligious person who's the conscience of the society? Is it a secular person who's the conscience? Who's the conscience? So yes, that's how it was difficult. But I balanced it somehow. And it's an interesting character.
Any female character which you thought was very difficult? Because women are very difficult to describe and to, they're...
Shazia was a difficult character.
Oh, I wanted to listen to that. Okay.
Shazia was a difficult character.
So, वो मेरी हम नाम है वो character, तो मैंने पहली चीज़ ही इनको पकड़ा, मैंने बोला आपने इसमें कि शाजिया डाली हुई है, तो जब आप लिख रहे थे तो we didn't even know each other, so but Shazia is difficult, yes.
That's a difficult character.
Difficult.
Yes, but because
and she's so different.
She is different. She stands out. Again, as I said, all my women characters, very powerful characters, and they're very honorable characters.
And what would you like to also talk about Nazo?
Nazo is, that's a very sad episode. Again, something that perhaps it's kind of a confession. This kind of thing actually played out in front of me. So it actually played out in front of me.
Okay, so
I was not in that particular moment, but I was around there when all this happened, and I was 17, 18 years of age at that time. So it had a lot of impact on me. And there were lots of questions that were raised that came to me at that time. So I can't really give the story away. You have to read it to find that out.
You have to. The book is available at Liberty downstairs. You can get it. He's around. You'll be around for a while.
I'm around for a while.
He can do the signing, and I should have asked you to autograph the book. I'll catch you in a while. But any other questions from you all? Ji.
You used a... Hello? Yeah. You used a very interesting adjective, an oxymoron. Complicated simplicity. Please explain.
You see, because I used it in our context, In fact, I've used this in one of the stories as well. It is oxymoronic, there's no doubt about it, yes. But that's what we are, at one time, you'll find these people to be extremely humble, very, very, hospitable and everything. And at the same time, there's a change of face, Suddenly these people would change at the snap of a finger, That's what these people, well, my people are, that's what we are,
Can you?
You use that term for the Pakhtuns, but are you implying that they're just the Pakhtuns or Sindhis, Baluchis, but Punjabis, everyone? I think there is an element.
In everyone.
It just
it could
struck
be.
me. It was an interesting word that I caught on to.
Well, I have written about a certain family in the KPK, so currently I'm just talking about the people that I know of. So, and I would not like to comment on others because since I haven't grown up in those cultures, in those societies, but of course since I've worked with all of them, I worked with foreigners also and all that. So, but since I was writing about a certain people, so I would just like to stick to that.
Anyone else?
One thing that I remember is that General Hamid Gul once said that he was talking about the Pukhtuns, obviously, the Afghans who were fighting, and I remember one of his interviews, and he said these are strange people. They are doing trading, and major trading, and at the same time they're fighting. So they do a trade, and they go and they start fighting again, and they come back, they start doing trade. So they are very difficult people.
Life में सब कुछ चल रहा है ना?
हाँ सब चल रहा है.
सब
Trade भी
चल
हो
रहा
रही है,
है.
लड़ाई भी हो रही है, सब
कुछ हो रहा है. हाँ तो ये that is like life. Okay, we see two hands going up. Can you give them the mic? Oh.
Assalamu alaikum. So I was going through the layout of the programs, and out of all of them, the title of this segment really appealed to me, The Whispering Chinar. So I wanted to ask you that what was your thought process while naming this book?
Beta, this is just a metaphor. It's a metaphor for various things. The branches stand for something, the leaves, the shade. So this is basically what it was, and I thought that maybe this is something that could be more appealing. So I'm glad at least I was able to, been able to find one convert, who liked the thing.
But sir, was this your idea? This was your title?
Yes, this is my title.
अच्छा, because usually कभी-कभी editor भी आ जाते हैं कि आप इसको ये नाम दे दें.
You're right. नहीं, मेरे case में तो.
Okay, and about your characters' names. So you had to think about that a lot कि इसको ये नाम देना चाहिए कि वो.
Huh, because I've changed, for example, one of the characters is Mahbano. So initially I gave the name Shadriya because I worked in Muscat, and they were also, they're about 1/3 of the population is Baluch. And one of the names that I picked up was Shadriya, and this was the lady who worked with me. She was my colleague. I thought I'll give it Shadriya. And then I said, it doesn't really stand out, Shadriya is a little clunky, So I said, no, we'll not go, we'll go with Mahbano, And then there was, again, I thought Meherbano or Mahbano, what should I go with? So there was a lot of thinking, before I said, let's go with Mahbano.
I asked this question because just a bit of history. There was the big famous novel Gone with the Wind, and Scarlett O'Hara was initially by the writer, she was named Pansy. That would have been very, very strange, So good, he renamed her Scarlett, she was renamed Scarlett O'Hara. Dr. Hafiz, आपने भी हाथ उठाया था, आपको कुछ पूछना है? अच्छा, बेटी के लिए हाथ उठाया था. Anyone else? Would you like to ask anything? Are we like, is it time? 2 minutes left. Would you like to read another passage in the 2 minutes we have?
There's one character. In fact, I would... see, I also empathize with my characters. So the Imam who becomes a monster, why does he become a monster, So there's a little bit, a short on that. So Abdul Aziz, that's the young boy, and his father is giving a sermon in the mosque.
Yes.
And he, as his son, he has to be there, obviously. So it's a Jummah prayer, he's sitting there, and now, in those early years of his life, sorry, just a second. In those early years of his life, Abdulaziz had fancied finding a way to break out from the miseries of day and night. Winters were especially harsh. Every morning before dawn, he had to reluctantly leave his warm bed on a signal from his father, a direct hit with his slipper. He vividly remembered quivering through the azan and being unable to pronounce the words as his teeth chattered. He knew Khan's grandchildren wore shiny coats that kept them warm. They called them jackets. But one couldn't find them in the village. Once, when he had got up late for calling the azan for his Fajr prayers, his father had whipped him to his heart's content, blaming him for staying up late to play video games with Khan Saab's grandsons. He was still too young to ask him if God had specifically notified him to wake up his son for the sacred ritual or had stopped him from carrying it out himself. There were other correctional rituals as well, but this one was particularly harsh. And then he talked the boredom part. He recalled the boredom his father's Friday sermons brought upon him. Unable to stop his father's sermon, he could only yawn. And soon to Khushrang's, that's the imam who's giving the sermon, Khushrang's frustration, the entire mosque would be yawning away his religious symphony. As if on cue, his audience opened their mouths unabashedly as soon as he turned his head in their direction. To an outsider, it seemed like a silent opera, where each group of people would open their mouths right when the conductor looked in their direction. The receptive audience seemed to be hooked to Khushrang's head movement, fully appreciating the concert. Fortunately for Abdulaziz, his father could never locate the source of this contagion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very
Ali
much.
Rohila Saab, the book is available. You're welcome to buy it and then catch him to autograph it. Thank you so much.